Welcome to Immigrating with Kathia. Today, we're going to talk about immigration waivers. What is a waiver? What do we need it for? How do we do it? What does it give me if I get the waiver? What happens if the waiver gets denied? All these things will be answered in our show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome to Immigrating with Kathia. My guest today is Attorney Greta Smit, one of the prominent attorneys, immigration attorneys in Reno, Nevada, and a person who does waivers all the time and can answer all of our questions. So here it is. Greta, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kathia. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very good. Very excited to have you in our show today. We want to talk about waivers. Most of our people don't understand the concept of waiver. What is a waiver?
It's a pretty complex process, and it means that someone who is inadmissible or deportable for different reasons, for example, if someone has committed a crime or has some type of illness or disease, they will need to ask for forgiveness. And again, it's a complicated process. So they will have to leave the country to go to the consulate in their country of origin to ask. Actually, they apply from within the United States. And then when the waiver gets approved, they will leave the country and go to an interview at the consulate in their country of origin.
Okay, so let's go in parts, Greta. So the waiver is asking for forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. And we may ask for forgiveness for many things. So you mentioned we can ask for forgiveness because we have a medical condition that the government says it's no good. We don't want people with those medical conditions. But then we ask for a waiver, and if they grant the waiver, they let us in even though we have the medical condition. Then you said also if we have a problem, if we have violated the law, like if we're undocumented, that's what you meant?
Yes, if someone has lived in the United States undocumented for more than a year, they will have a 10-year bar, which means that they cannot apply for a green card or for a visa for that long, for a period of 10 years.
Okay, so, but I can ask for that waiver, the pardon here, and then if they give me the waiver, I can go out and ask for the green card, and I won't have to stay 10 years. I will just stay for as long as it's the process, which could be a couple of weeks, right?
That's correct. Yes, it's called one of these waivers, and again, there are many different types of waivers, but one of them is called the 601A, the provisional waiver. And for that particular waiver, you can apply from within the United States, and you can wait here in the United States for it to get approved.
Okay, so then there are other waivers also for when I have a criminal record, a criminal past. How does that one works?
Well, so that is also, it's a similar process. But you don't have to, that one you have to just wait until it gets approved. And again, it's the same process. You will have to be forgiven for that criminal history. And once it gets approved, you can then go to the consulate for the interview.
Okay, and there are also waivers for when I've had not a criminal history, but an immigration history, because I may have a deportation, and that could also trigger the need to file waivers, right?
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
So in all these waivers, they are all the same waiver, or do they have different names?
Well, there is a 601 waiver that you can file when you are outside of the country, for instance. Again, it's just a waiver in general. There's also a waiver for called a 212 waiver, to ask for permission to re-enter the country after you have left or have been deported, or for various reasons.
Okay, so which one is the most common, Greta? Which one is that one that most people do?
The 601A provisional waiver. I encounter that almost every day.
Okay, so tell me let's talk about this 601A, because it's probably the one that our viewers want to know about. Tell me when do I need that 601A provisional waiver?
So that particular one is when someone has been living in the United States undocumented for more than, if you have been living in the United States for more than 6 months undocumented, you have a 3-year bar. If you have been in the United States undocumented for more than 1 year, you have a 10-year bar. So for that particular process, someone needs to have a US citizen or permanent resident spouse or parent. So without that family member, you will not be able to go forward with the 601A.
Okay, so let's see if I understood. You need the 601A waiver when you have lived in the United States for more than 1 year and you want to ask for a green card, and you cannot ask for the green card inside the United States, so you're going to have to ask for the green card in your home country. And so to avoid the 10-year penalty, you have to do this waiver. And to do this waiver, you must have mom, dad, or husband or wife that it's a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. So the kids don't count?
No, someone can have as many as 10 U.S. citizen children, and if they don't have the spouse or the parent who's a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, they cannot qualify for this waiver. They can.
That is so unfair.
Yes, I think the laws they don't make a lot of sense, I think, but it is what it is at the moment.
So there's nothing we can do. Nothing we can do in politics, or it's a law and can only be changed by Congress?
Absolutely, yes. It has not changed for so many years. So that we can only hope that it will change in the future.
Okay, so that makes me think that sometimes, many times, you wait 21 years for your son or daughter to become a 21 U.S. citizens. Now they can apply for their father or their mother. But if this father or mother does not have mom, dad, or a spouse that is legal permanent resident or U.S. citizen, there's nothing they can do. They cannot do the waiver, so they cannot continue with the process. Is that right?
That is right, unfortunately.
That is so wrong, so messed up. But anyways, let's talk about the people who can do the waiver. For example, those who marry a U.S. citizen and they are here undocumented and they qualify to do the provisional waiver. So let's assume that I'm one of those. I marry a U.S. citizen, I'm undocumented, I'm here, and I come to you and you say, okay, you need to do the waiver. What do I need to give you for you to do the waiver?
Well, you will need a lot of evidence to show that your qualifying relative, so again, your mom, your dad, or your spouse, who is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, will suffer extreme hardship in the case that you would not be allowed to stay in the United States.
Okay, so, you just said something I don't understand. What is extreme hardship?
Yes, this concept means that you have to prove, again, with a lot of documentation, that your qualifying relative will suffer problems, will suffer hardships, and it's not regular problems that everyone has on a daily basis. We're really talking about severe illness or severe financial problems when, let's say, the applicant, is the main provider of the family, for instance, and without that provider, there is no family income. And it's a totality of circumstances. So the more you can show, the better it is for your case.
So if I come and tell you, oh, well, if I get deported, I'm who's going to pay the house? He doesn't make enough to pay the mortgage. Is that enough?
No, that's absolutely not enough. You look at, the standard is extreme. So it's...
but that's extreme to me.
It is not considered, in the eyes of the government, that is not considered enough.
So it's not what I think. You have to put yourself on the shoes of the immigration officer, and you have to provide more than enough so the immigration officer makes the decision that can be supported by your evidence, right?
Yes, correct. You cannot simply just make statements without backing them up with, again, a lot of medical records, a lot of documents. It's generally hundreds of pages that I prepare for a case like this.
Hundreds of pages for a waiver?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in almost all my cases, the package is very large.
Okay, but what I thought I only needed to write a letter telling the government why is that my if you're the U.S. citizen, I thought that you would write a letter explaining why you don't want your wife or your husband to leave and not come back, and that would be enough.
That case will never get approved, unfortunately. You will have to do a lot of work and collect a ton of evidence. And letters can be supportive and they can be used, but a letter in and of itself will not get the case approved.
Okay, so tell me what kind of evidence helps? So what do you ask a person when they need to do a waiver? Do you talk to the U.S. citizen mom, dad, or husband or wife, or do you just talk to the immigrant and you find out through the immigrant what's going on?
No, it depends on the specific case. Every case is different. So I normally go really deep and I talk to, first of course, the applicant, him or herself, but then I ask about the specific family situation, and then depending on where the hardship lies, I will talk to every member or doctors or whoever I need to talk to.
Okay, so is it, based on what you're telling me, it seems like somebody has to be sick in the family. Is that necessary, or can I get a waiver when nobody's sick?
It helps a lot. I always tell my clients, whatever you don't want to face in your personal life helps your immigration case. But if someone does not have, any severe medical conditions, no financial problems, it will be really difficult to get the case approved. So, and again, sometimes I've been able to get cases approved where there's a lot of different things. Again, it's totality of circumstances, and there are a lot of equities, in other words, good factors you can work with. But in most cases, I really dig very deep to find problems.
I see. Well, it sounds complicated, Greta, and I am playing here the role of the immigrant who doesn't know what is this, because you explain it in a very nice way, and that's what we need to hear. We normally would love to hear that everything is easy and simple, but in immigration, nothing is easy or simple, and that's where immigration lawyers come in. That's where your expertise and your experience comes in. How is the process? Okay, so I came to your office, you talked to me about the waiver, you dig into my life and the life of my family members, and then you give me a list of everything that I'm going to need for the waiver. What happens after I gather all the evidence that you need? How does the process works?
So how I handle those cases is when my client tells me they have gathered all the evidence that I asked them to gather, I prepare a very comprehensive brief laying out all the factors. And then in the brief, I refer to all the pieces of evidence to back up the arguments, the legal arguments. And again, when I feel that the package is ready, I submit it, and it takes many, many months of waiting until we receive a decision. And again, once the case is approved, then the applicant needs to go to the consulate in his or her country to go through the interview there. And if there are no criminal issues, which you always have to, of course, screen for from the very beginning, the applicant will come back with their green card.
Okay, so you file, and then after you file, you have to be fingerprinted, right? Because that's how they're going to check.
Yes,
they're going to check if you have a criminal record or not. And then there is a long wait. How long is it taking right now to get a 601A approved?
I would say it's about 18 months. Is my experience.
Okay, and so after 18 months, I get my approval, and then it's that then when you start consular process, the process to get the appointment in your country, it's a separate process. It's called consular process.
Yes.
Do you wait until you get the approval notice of the waiver, or do you do it at the same time?
I start that process probably about 6 months after I filed the waiver. I gather the financial documents, the civil documents that need to be submitted to the consulate. And that's when I start the consular processing.
Okay, so after the waiver, the person has to go to their country of origin, go to the interview, and then come back with their green card. So tell me what happens if the waiver gets denied, because we have no control over over that decision, right? As lawyers, we prepare everything and we submit it when we feel it's strong enough to be approved, but we don't have control. What happens if it gets denied?
Well, there is a possibility that the applicant will be put in removal proceedings. I have not seen that happen. Again, I generally don't move forward with a case where it's borderline. So I've had good success with getting them approved. But in the worst case scenario that someone gets their waiver denied, yes, they're taking a risk.
But can you refile? Can you do it again?
Yes, you can file as many times as you would like. Of course, when the first time you get your waiver denied, you better make sure that the next time you file, you find different arguments, more evidence, but yes, you can file many times.
Good. So I shouldn't be just, demoralized. I ask you because many times, and I'm sure it happens to you too, people come to us after they have filed their waivers with a notario or with a document preparer because they wanted to save the money,
Yes.
And so they file and they wait 18 months and it's a denial. And right then it's when they come and look for a lawyer. So it is important for our people to understand that, our immigrants to understand that it's not the end of the world. You can file again. You have to be very careful to make sure that the lawyer who's going to do your new waiver knows about everything about what you file and the documents you submitted. And it's very likely, if the lawyer wants to make sure that he knows absolutely everything about the case, that it's very likely that the lawyer will ask for a FOIA to see the notes of the officer who denied the previous waiver. So when a case is denied, the immigrant receives a letter that says, okay, we've denied it because so blah, blah, blah. But behind that blah, 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 there are notes that the officer made in the file of that immigrant. So lawyers, we normally want to see all those notes. So it may take a while for the lawyer to prepare that waiver because they're going to want to see that before they proceed. Right, Greta?
Yeah, correct. I have done FOIAs for many of my clients, and it's very helpful. If you need to know what went wrong the first time, I think it's a very good strategy to do the FOIA.
So FOIA is when we ask the government for a copy of our file, for a copy of everything, of all the information that they have about us. And it's Greta and I think we should do FOIAs on everybody as soon as an immigrant says that they had an encounter, any type of encounter with immigration, with ICE, with the Border Patrol, we are doing FOIAs. It's the best way to make sure that we don't make mistakes that could be costly to the immigrant. But anyways, so the world of waivers, it's not easy, it's not fun, but it's doable. Nowadays, the government is still approving waivers right and left, and those waivers are allowing our immigrants the opportunity to obtain their green cards. So we encourage all of you who are looking into doing a waiver for your case to seek the advice of a lawyer, to seek the advice of someone who understands not only the law about the waivers, the regulations about the waivers, the procedures that it entails when submitting something to the immigration office. Greta, it's been a pleasure talking to you about waivers today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you for being here when I need your help.
Thank you so much, Kathia. And it was my pleasure as well. And let's keep up the great work.
Yes. And like I told you before, guys, Greta Smit is an attorney in Reno, Nevada. Her information will be in the comments. So follow her, follow what she's doing, and contact her if you need an immigration lawyer. She is extremely experienced and extremely good at doing waivers, at family immigration, at business immigration. Greta does all the areas of immigration, and she's excellent at it. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with you today, and we'll see all of you in another Immigrating with Kathia. Bye.
Bye, everybody.